Hi, my name is Jessica Shaw. I'm in Dr. Robinson's class. This is a short video on the social welfare models. So there's three different types of the social welfare systems and services. There's institutional, residual, and developmental. So a social welfare model is a system of social welfare provision and its accompanying value system. It usually involves social policies that affect the welfare of a country's citizens within the framework of a mixed or market economy. Institutional welfare system, this essentially means that the institutional approach is accepted as a normal part of life. So this would be some examples of institutional welfare would be like TANF, food stamps, the Affordable Care Act, some more encompassing welfare models. So the two main ways that the state approaches welfare, and it's important to examine the different models of welfare and how they fit in with the current political climate. The residual model is often looked at as the optimistic one, as it is focused on economic growth of social welfare in society. It is believed that with economic growth and diversified prosperity, poverty will decline. Programs limited only to the poor, these are residual programs, so it's limited to the poor, emergency food, emergency housing assistance, etc. So there's normally a lot of social stigma involved with the residual style. So I'm not a big fan of the residual style. It's more of like an emergency funding. It doesn't help people in the long term. So the opposing side of this model, we have the institutional model. The emphasis is put on the model of ongoing poverty rather than the growth of affluence. This model is marked by universal rights, based on universal rights, non-stigmatizing, and redistributable state benefits and services, and believe this should just be a normal function of society today. In an institutional approach, welfare is not just provided for the poor, but for everyone. So the poverty line determines by people's income how much money people generate, like what they have coming in, what money they might have in the bank or whatever, what based on child support or different areas or whatever. So people may still need help based on these things, and also the poverty line can be moved by cost of living in different areas, but people still need help if they're above the poverty line for different things. Like they may not have dental, they may not have vision, they may not have lunches for their children. Like there's all kinds of things that fall into poverty that aren't necessarily associated with a certain amount of money. A social welfare system provides assistance to individuals and families in need, the type of assistance depending on the county, state, and region. You have different types of, like in the United States, we're more of a capitalist society, and then in Europe, you have more socialists. So in a socialist society, they're more, they take the developmental approach, versus the United States is kind of a combination of the residual and the industrial, or institutional rather. So I'm definitely the biggest fan of the developmental approach. So the developmental approach is sort of like a preventative measure for poverty. It helps people with their strengths. It helps people as they're going. So some examples of developmental social welfare would be Head Start, it would be food stamps, it would be assistance with education. So it helps people along the way and gives them a leg up to have a more positive life. Social welfare models, elements of them, that can be taxation, social insurances, benefits for the unemployed, pensions, maternity and paternity leave and disabilities, public services like healthcare, etc. So in the institutional welfare system, this essentially means that the institutional approach is accepted as the normal part of life. And in the developmental, so that is a combination of the residual, which is basically, the residual is like kind of stigmatized and frowned upon and just comes in an emergency situation. And then you have the institutional, which doesn't really get people out of poverty. It just sort of, I don't want to say placates them, but it just gives them what they need. So the developmental approach is in the middle, and it gives people what they need, but it also helps them to move forward. So I'm absolutely a big fan of the developmental. I think that it gives people more empowerment, more upward mobility, especially through education. And I wish that the United States was more liberal and open and had more federal mandates on the poverty system, versus being state by state, because I think that it would, the policies would be more across the board and congruent. So again, I prefer the developmental approach of all of them. Thank you.